Today on You Need a Candles is our biggest day yet. If you're a Friday the 13th fan, you are going to love this. We are releasing new Friday the 13th wax melts. We are restocking the old entries that we've put out, like Part 4, like Part 5, but we don't stop there. We're doing 1 through 10, so here's the new Part 6 wax melt coming up. Oh, you know we've got the new blood coming, and guess what? We redesigned and restocked the Big Apple, the fan favorite. We've got Ghost to Hell with a more palatable fire scent, and of course we've got our Uber Jason. You do not want to miss this. Today on You Need a Candles. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your old pal CHH here today, and I am super excited to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street today. I really like doing these tier rankings. They're really fun because it gives me a chance to almost like do a reboot, a reset on the series. I don't watch my ranking. I don't remember what I ranked them, but this is like a rating, so it's not necessarily like a ranking. So it gives me a chance to relive the magic of the Elm Street series, which you guys know as well as I do, this is the greatest horror franchise ever made. I say that jokingly, but I do believe it. It is also my favorite franchise. I think it's the most creative, innovative, fun, visually stunning, entertaining, funny, best franchise ever. So what we're going to do, as we did last time with Friday the 13th, is do a tier list with these movies. And I've got the tiers set up the same way. Perfect, A grade, B grade, C grade, and D grade. I'm actually thinking this could be a little bit more controversial than the Friday the 13th. I did put Jason X very high, and I stand by that. I think it's extremely entertaining. But there are also maybe some Elm Street films that maybe you'll expect to be at the highest upper echelon that I don't put there. But there's only one way to find out, guys. That's for me to just shut up and get started. So here we go, guys. Let's add the tier video in here. Let's make me small for a second. So here we are with the first film of the series, obviously, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Is this my favorite of the series? No, but where are we going with this one? Well, what's wrong with A Nightmare on Elm Street? Let's kind of talk about that. The answer is, I don't think anything is wrong with it. Truthfully, Heather Langenkamp is not my favorite final girl in this movie, but does she do a good job in this movie? Absolutely. Are the effects great in this movie? Abso-freaking-lutely. I gotta be honest with you, my gut instinct tells me to shove the original in perfect. And of course, at the end of this, I'll give myself the same get out of jail free card as I did Friday the 13th. I'll move one that I feel according to. So Elm Street is gonna go right there at the top. Wes Craven this is his best film. Like, sometimes I want to be cool and try to think of like what else would be his best film. It's The Hills Have Eyes. No, it's not The Hills Have Eyes. I love The Hills Have Eyes. Is it People on the Stairs? I love that movie. No, it's not it. His best film has to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. I actually think that the first Elm Street, I mean, I really do think it is a perfect slasher film. But I don't even like using the term slasher for Freddy. Is that weird? To me, the Nightmare on Elm Street films are just so imaginative and great. It's almost deductive for me to call the Elm Street movies slasher films. But in other ways, they quintessentially are slasher films. So that's neither here or there. Let's move on to the greatest Elm Street film in the series, in my humble opinion. The darkest, meanest portrayal of Freddy. An entry that has a lot of cool stuff to say in terms of Jesse being a closeted homosexual in the movie, which we now know, which was supposed to be subtext. But between the subtext, David Chaskin talking about it, and knowing Mark Patton's story in real life now, he really was a closeted gay guy in real life and really in the movie. But this movie is also just a damn scary horror film on top of all that great stuff. This is the coolest, meanest, most sinister Freddy in the series. One day, if I ever muster up the strength to wait in line all day to meet Robert, I'd love to tell him that. And I'm sure he's heard that 1,000 times over, that this is the scariest A Nightmare on Elm Street in a lot of ways because of how dark and mean Freddy is. I also love in Elm Street 2 the scene where Jesse turns into Freddy by the pool scene, you actually see Freddy's hand with the knives coming out of his fingers. We never ever saw that again in the series as far as I can recall. So that's actually pretty cool that Freddy's hand just had the knives coming out of them. Kind of wish we'd have saw more of that, but it also makes part 2 go that route. So here's the deal. There's a part of me that wants to put it in A grade, and I'll tell you why. Despite that this is my all-time favorite one. There are certainly some technical errors with this movie. There's moments of the film where it's not Freddy. There's the stunt guy where he's walking out of the fog in the bathroom, and it's a pretty cheesy scene. But it also works very well because it's almost like that's Jesse walking as Freddy, and Freddy hasn't been able to completely take over Jesse yet. That's the way I justify that in my head. And there's also some shots reused in the movie. For instance, after Jesse tells Grady Schneider's always got a stick up his ass, we see a shot from a couple days before in school where they're doing the push-up hold wearing those clothes, which was not what they were wearing earlier. So that's clearly like a shot used in post to fill in the gap right there instead of doing something that would have had better continuity. But at the same time, guys, Elm Street 2 to me just has that X factor. In all intents and purposes, it's far from a perfectly made film. There are technical flaws and problems with it, but it's got that X factor to me that makes it so undoubtedly scary and good that I've got to put it in perfect. I have to, and I know that's going to be sacrilege to a lot of fans, but for me, Elm Street 2 is an imperfectly perfect slasher film, horror film, a Nightmare on Elm Street film. So, here we go. Damn it. Are all these going to be in perfect? I can't put everything in perfect. But, you know what? I might come back to the first Elm Street. We'll see. Next is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, guys. So this is, it's tough, but it's not tough. I kind of think that Elm Street Dream Warriors is the pinnacle of the decade in a lot of ways. Despite it's not my number 1, this is my number 2 Elm Street film. This movie is so damn good. This is the pinnacle. The poster is amazing. Freddy is at his best in his wittiness, but he's also still very, very angry and mean, which I thought blended very well. Elm Street 3 really has the best special effects stuff in the series. It's because of the tone of it as well. Some could argue that 4 has the best special effects of the series, but for me it's 3 because of the way it's toned in with a darker Chuck Russell film, while still having the Freddy that we would know and undoubtedly love, without question. I think this is insane. I've got to put Dream Warriors in perfect as well. I mean, the first 3 films to me are perfect in a lot of ways, and they're also not in the same way, but I don't want to ramble. Again, I've got my get out of jail free card. But let's actually get things bumping here. So next, guys, is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I have really grown to love this film big time. I mean, truly big time. What's wrong with Dream Master? We didn't get to recast. We had to recast some people. But instead of being negative about Patricia not being in the film and recasting with Tuesday Night, look at what we got with Tuesday. Not only was she a great actress and she did a great job in the film, but she also came with accessories in a sense. She came with a vocal ability and a singing career. She has a really awesome album. Tuesday Night does. I think it's self-titled, but it was from '87. Check it out. It's great '80s AOR rock. I love it to death. And she also she gave the song for the beginning of the film, "Running from This Nightmare," which unequivocally just identifies the Dream Master. So I'm glad that Tuesday Night came into the mix because of her, we got that great opening song, "Running from This Nightmare," which sets that movie off to the perfect tone that it needs to. So to me, it's 2 thumbs up that we got Tuesday, because if not, there would have been another song in the beginning of the film, and it very well could have been some random-ass rock song. And it would still be part of history, but the fact of the matter is we wouldn't have that great Tuesday Night song. So I am thrilled that Tuesday came into the mix. Freddy's makeup is at tip-top form here. I love the makeup. I love the soundtrack for Part 4, which still doesn't get talked about enough. We've got Billy Idol, we've got Go West, we've got Vinnie Vincent Invasion, we've got the Sea Hags, we've got, Jesus, man, I don't even know, the Divinals. I mean, the soundtrack for 4, it truly is the MTV nightmare, like Robert said. It's amazing. It's a lighter shade of gray. I dubbed this movie, I don't know if I'm the first person to call it this, but in case I am, I dubbed this movie the Daydream Master because 90% of the film seems to take place in the daytime, which also gives it its identity. And the effects are just as wild. In some instances, they're probably more wild than Dream Warriors, but Warriors, the tone of it was perfect and all that stuff. So I'm going to stick Dream Master in A grade. I think it, in some ways, pushes the boundaries from 3, but 3 was literally one of the most perfect shades of gray for the series possible, where 4 tips over a little bit, and while I still love it for that, I think Dream Warriors scales the heights higher than Dream Master. But Dream Master is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's such an entertaining horror film. So I'm feeling comfortable putting that in A, and I'm kind of wanting to pull one of these movies off of Perfect. But again, we'll talk about that at the end. Let's go next, guys, to The Dream Child. Now, I'm actually excited to talk about The Dream Child for a second. So, you know I'm a big fan. If you look right here, look behind me. That's my baby Freddy. It's one of my favorite prized possessions in my collection. So I love The Dream Child. Let's talk about The Dream Child for a second, because there's still moments where I feel like I don't get to express enough my thoughts about this film. Obviously, I don't think Dream Child scales the heights of Part 4. That's not even a question, quite frankly. But let's talk about that for a second, instead of just being like, oh, this movie's not as good. New Line made a crucial error here, guys. They rushed this movie out. I think it came out 9 or 10 months after The Dream Master. Dream Master was the most successful up to that point. The Nightmare movies are insane in that the first 4 movies, everyone did more money at the box office instead of going less. How often does that happen? That's amazing. That is astounding that happened. With that being said, they rushed out The Dream Child. They used an old script that they had passed on years prior. So going on a premise that was not good enough before and is now being used is interesting. Although it works with the story, because we've got Lisa in the mix now. She's with Dan in Part 4. In Part 5, they're a couple, and they get pregnant together. The story isn't absolutely totally fleshed out, and I'm still a little unclear as to how all of the things worked in the movie, with the baby having dreams and it invades Alice's dreams and things like that. It never totally fleshed out to me. So the story and the rushed production certainly causes problems on this film. But let's talk about the positives, because I was going to initially put this in C grade. But I want to talk about some of the positives with Dream Child. Dream Child has an exceptional score. I love the gothic sounds of Dream Child. And despite the rush production, Stephen Hopkins knocked it out of the park with the look and design of this film. He was a storyboard machismo. Look at the storyboards the guy did for this film. He worked 25 hours a day. He worked so hard on this film in a short amount of time. To me, it shows. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, The Dream Child, but this film certainly has its visual identity, without question. The gothic church sequence where Freddy comes back to fruition in its full scale is a brilliantly, gorgeously looking scene. I love it to death. The characters are all identifiable and personable. They're maybe not as good as 4. Some might argue that they are. I think the characters in 4 are a little bit better. The soundtrack is there, and it's actually an amazing soundtrack. I have it on vinyl. All the rock songs are astoundingly great. The problem is you don't really hear them in the film, whereas 4, you certainly got, like, the vinyls Back to the Wall is prominent in the film. I was going to put this in C grade, but I'm going to tell you what really is giving me the B grade bump for this film. Not because I want to be an apologist, but because if you can see this film in its uncut version, I've always said it'll bump it up a star grade. So let's say you give Dream Child a 2. In my opinion, if you're able to see it uncut and you see the Dan scene, you see the Greta scene where Freddy really pushes it with his kills and the gore, to me, it bumps you up a star. So with that being said, theatrically, I would give Dream Child a C, despite the film still being ambitious and being under good hands. But because of the uncut version of this movie, which I can't praise enough, I'm giving it the B grade. So I'm actually going to put the Dream Child in grade B. Really entertaining film, never boring, fast pace. But if you can see it as an uncut version, to me, it's a solid B film. All right, so next we're moving on to Freddy's Dead. Now, this one I truly have no idea at this moment where to put it, because people know I like this film. I do, and I'm torn. I mean, I'm going to try to explain this out in my head to you guys, so maybe you can help me. Freddy's Dead is a well-made horror film. The problem is the direction, I think. They went full-fledged, full force, and I've been complaining about this a lot. My complaints with Halloween Ends were that they didn't go all the way with the Corey Cunningham thing. They didn't make him the new Myers, which is clearly what the direction seemed like they were doing. Other films teeter around an idea that they have, and they reel it back. Freddy's Dead does not reel it back. They go for the cartoon style, 1,000%. So 2 thumbs up on that. It's not the horror fans' cup of tea, typically, and a lot of people dismiss it for that. But I give them credit. I think the film was pretty funny and certainly entertaining. And quite frankly, I like the characters. The trio of the girl and the 2 guys, I like them. And I always identified as Carlos. I like them a lot. The problem with this film for me also is the 3D. Making one scene 3D, quite frankly, is kind of unacceptable. I would love to be able to watch this film on 3D, true 3D. But the sad part about that still is you're not going to be seeing anything in real 3D except for the final scene. And I don't even know if that end scene was shot in real 3D, whatever the technical term is. The Laserdisc made it a 3D release where you get the Freddy's Dead glasses at the end, which is awesome. And I've watched it on 3D on Laserdisc, which was fun. I believe the DVD also came with 3D glasses. But why just one scene? Why not make the entire movie 3D? You're going to tell me, you the audience, you're going to tell me you wouldn't be into a full 3D Nightmare on Elm Street film? Are you kidding me? It's tailor-made to do a Nightmare on Elm Street 3D. I mean, it's tailor-made to do a 3D film for an Elm Street entry. Tailor-made with Freddy and the way he kills people and the over-the-topness in the dream world. It's built to do a 3D film. The fact that we haven't had a real 3D Freddy movie kind of sucks, to be honest with you. So because of that, I'm going to put Freddy's Dead in C. Despite being a fan, unacceptable. Make the whole movie 3D. What are you guys thinking? Why did you not do that? Jesus, have mercy. Okay, anyway. Let's recap where we're at. So in the perfect scale, we've got 1, 2, and 3. In the A grade, we've got the Dream Master. In the B grade, which I almost put in C grade, but again, if you can see this film uncut, I'm pretty sure you'll probably like it a little bit more. We have the Dream Child in B grade, and in the C grade, we have Freddy's Dead. Despite, I believe I ranked Freddy's Dead higher than Dream Child on my ranking, but the fact of the matter is, as I talk more about these films, I actually want to give Dream Child a bump and level back on Freddy's Dead, not in terms of the quality of the film, but one scene in 3D. It's kind of really silly. Anyway, next, guys, let's see. Next is New Nightmare. This is where I could get myself in trouble, because New Nightmare has a dedicated fan base and a big fan base. I always feel, and I have to talk about a different film in this matter, because I think it goes to my point that I'm trying to make. My opinion, not point. My opinion. I don't want to say point. People give Wes Craven a lot of credit for Scream. And I don't want to take away from what Wes did. He directed the film. He was in charge of the film. Zero to take away from him. But I feel Williamson needs the majority of the credit for Scream. I really do. Because that film was fast-paced, that film was energetic and entertaining, and you kept rolling with it. Scream was a roller coaster, and it didn't stop. New Nightmare, for me, has the correct elements. A beautifully new designed Freddy, a great theme. I love the meta. They stopped making the film, so that caused the real Demon Freddy to come back into the Earth realm, because making the films kind of put them in a box. I dig all that. That story element aspect I think is great. But I feel like New Nightmare is just slow. And it's sometimes sluggish to get through. It's not the actor's fault. It's not the story's fault. It's like that pace of that film. I just feel it's slow. Some people could totally disagree with me on that. But I bring up Scream because that's the same kind of movie. That meta, real stuff, looking at the audience, making it seem part of reality. Williamson made a script that was lightning speed. Craven made New Nightmare, and while it's a great movie, and I'll never skip it when I marathon the films, to me, it's slower. And it doesn't have that rhythm like a movie like Scream did, which he also directed. So I'm not the biggest New Nightmare fan in other ways. So I'm actually going to put New Nightmare in B. I'm going to put New Nightmare in the B grade. It's crazy when I'm doing this. I'm sure it's totally different from my ranking, but look, that was then and this is now. This is how I feel today. So why don't we move on, guys? Really quick, we'll recap. So we just put New Nightmare in B, with Dream Child in B. We've got A grade, we've got Dream Master, and in the perfect, we've got 1, 2, and 3. The only C we have so far is Freddy's Dead. So let's move on to Freddy vs. Jason. Now, if you saw the Friday the 13th ranking we did, I clearly put Freddy vs. Jason in C. And to recap that, so I don't just repeat everything I said in that video, if you didn't see the Friday the 13th tier ranking, go check that out. Freddy didn't have much kills in this, and I just think that's really a shame. I really do. I mean, because he had the one kill he had was awesome, but he should have taken out that Kelly chick. He was set up to just own her. Jason takes him out. Freddy, I think, is the best part of Freddy vs. Jason, hands down. But the movie itself, I just have problems with. But it's still, on the bright side of it, reading that book, Slash of the Titans, which, again, we're going to get rolling on the story of Freddy vs. Jason Part 3. I've got it wrote down. Just got to film it. I'm going to stick with a C for Freddy vs. Jason. I think that's where I had it last time. I'm going to stick with C grade for Freddy vs. Jason. Just problems with it. It could have been better, and a lot of those problems have to do with the Jason character, not so much Freddy. But the fact of the matter is, I'm judging that movie as a whole, not just on Freddy's aspect, I guess. And last but certainly not, wow, the remake. I don't have anything in D grade, and quite frankly, I don't know if anything is a D grade film. But then again, here we are at the remake. So what's good about the remake? Jackie's good. Jackie's good. But this film didn't take any risks. This film didn't do anything that I thought would have been a good payoff. The biggest thing they could have done was made Freddy innocent, because then he maybe they could have explained that he took a deal from the devil to avenge the kids of the parents that killed him. You know, there could have been great ways we could have gone there, but they didn't do that. The cast is just fairly dull, and I'm not necessarily going to blame them. I'm going to put part of it on the director. We're going to put part of it on the script. I can watch this movie, guys, but you know what? I'm actually going to go D. No risks taken. So there it is, guys. Let's have a look at our ranking and see what we've got. In the perfect scale, we've got 1, 2, and 3. In the A scale, we've got Nightmare 4. In the B scale, we've got 5 and 7. In the C scale, we got Freddy's Dead and Freddy vs. Jason. And in the D scale, we've got the remake. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I need a get out of jail free card. I think I'm actually pretty happy with what I've got right there. So there it is, guys. We just rated the Elm Street film. So the one thing I want to say for the takeaway of this is, if you can, go check out the uncut Dream Child. Please check it out. I know it's not exactly easy to do. You can find ways. Not that I support stealing movies, but look, if you're watching this, you probably own the film. You've done your part. Until they actually physically release this film legitimately uncut, figure out a way to go see it uncut, please. and let me know what you think. Let me know what your perfect rankings would be for the Elm Street series and anything else like that. One last time, we'll take a look at it. We've got 3 in the perfect scale, 1, 2, and 3. 4 is in A grade, and B grade, Dream Child and New Nightmare, and the C grade, Freddy's Dead and Freddy vs. Jason. And we actually had a D grade, the remake. Thank you guys for watching. Happy Halloween. Be ready for You Need a Candles today. Massive drop on the Friday the 13th wax melts. You don't want to miss those. I'll have links in the description and in the pinned comment. Take it easy, guys. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and music, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month.